Australians has always been deeply linked to the availability of water, both through droughts and floods. It's deep in our history in this country. All Australians know that water is unevenly distributed across our vast nation continent, and it's often most abundant where people are not. We also know as Australians that the availability of water can vary dramatically from one year to another, as rainfall waxes and wanes according to the climate vagaries of El Nino and La Nina. For millennia, the Indigenous peoples of Australia understood these vagaries, and they moved seasonally across our arid landscape as the ephemeral rivers and waterholes dried up across the year. Life was intimately tied to water, and it was dependent on the plants and animals that lived in and around these constantly changing waterways of our largely arid continent. Those British and European settlers who much later in 1788 came to Australia learned quickly and out of absolute necessity that rainfall and rivers could not be relied upon in supporting a growing population or to water the crops and livestock that were needed to feed those people. In the years leading up to the Federation, when we moved away from being part of Britain at the time in 1901, drought had been prevalent in the decade leading up to that period, and the sharing of water resources of the Murray-Darling river system became a critical and contentious issue for the then British colonies of Australia. It took more than a decade after Federation that we couldn't organise, and we started about 15 years before Federation, and it took us another 10 years after to finally come to an agreement on the first water sharing arrangements for the Murray-Darling in 1915. So yet this agreement has stood the test of time. It was 100 years old last year, that agreement, and it is still the foundation for the sharing of the scarce water resources of the Murray-Darling Basin between the riparian states of the Murray-Darling. Drought and water scarcity have continued to play a major role in Australian life and economic development ever since, and have been major factors in driving water reform since the 1980s in this country. Where for the previous 100 years, the challenge had been only to worry about how and where to build new water infrastructure, dams, irrigation systems, the latter half of the 20th century in Australia saw the focus shift to new ideas, caps on water use, more effective water allocation policy, integrated basin management, and to huge improvements in water use efficiency, both in irrigation in cities and elsewhere. During the Millennium Drought from 1997 to 2009, 12 years, our worst drought in record, the Australian governments, both nationally and state level, intervened financially and institutionally to further drive policy reforms, and most critically for us, to rebalance the allocation of water between human consumption and the environment. An opportunity for a wealthy Western country like Australia, but a mistake that we had made that we had to rectify over the previous 100 years. So from all of this, I hope our international delegates here, and again I welcome you all here today, will understand that Australia has had to learn to effectively manage water scarcity and drought. This has not been an option for us. It's a practical necessity. We have put into practice the principle that water must be managed as a scarce economic good, a common pool resource to be allocated and used wisely for the benefit of all people. But in MDB in particular, we managed to pull back from the tragedy of the commons outcome. Those who study the tragedy of the commons in high school, we pulled back from that. But this is a challenge for all of us in water. It is a public good, but it's an economic good as well. This is our collective challenge. So as Australians, we stand behind the new global call for action from the UN High-Level Panel on Water, on calling for action on water scarcity and drought. And we're very pleased to stand behind that. So, just in my concluding remarks, I'm very pleased that the Australian Water Partnership and the International Water Association have joined together to bring you all here today. Thank you very much.